In addition to supporting my favorite programs, I earned a tax deduction. Turn something you don't need into something you really want. Contact the Vehicle Donation Program.
Arizona PBS celebrates a moment in time, made possible by Rock Springs Cafe. Phoenix rose from the ashes in 1868, growing from a thriving agricultural town to a culturally diverse city. Phoenix is now the 5th largest city in the U.S. with over 1 million people.
Coming soon to Arizona PBS.
Head like a crocodile, massive jaws, a spectacular sail.
This is an animal that we know was enormous and very strange, one of the great mysteries of the dinosaur world.
Can a new discovery resurrect Earth's largest predator?
We're going to be figuring out things as we look at the bones that we never dreamed possible in a dinosaur before.
Bigger than T-Rex, a Nova National Geographic special.
Wednesday night at 8 on Arizona PBS. When you want to be more amazed, Arizona PBS delivers the thrill of exploration in science and history, thanks to financial support from you and
Hospice of the Valley, medical, social, and spiritual care for patients nearing end of life, and support for their families. A not-for-profit community hospice, HOV.org.
From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Quentin Walker. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we take a look at our top sustainability stories, from panels that pull water from the air to how drones are helping farmers.
When we think of reuse, we often think about water bottles, clothes, small items. But Cronkite News reporter Jordan Elder is here to tell us about other reusable items you may be sitting on right now.
Have you ever thought about where the couch you're sitting on or the table you're eating at may end up once you're done with it? There's a growing movement in Arizona and around the country to reuse furniture and give it a second life. To some, it may look like trash.
Cabinet sets, countertops, plumbing fixtures, windows, doors.
But to Laura Ward, it's treasure.
You never know what you're going to find, but by coming back every week or so, I'm always looking to see what they have and how I can use it in my home.
Stardust Building Supplies is just one of the companies taking part in the reuse movement, giving new homes to the items that make a home, something that business development manager Chelsea Pickett is proud of.
All the building materials in a home or business are typically destroyed and then taken to the landfill where they are basically end of life. With deconstruction, we can go in, we remove those items, we're able to redistribute them to the community.
And when it's reused, it's also repriced, something store manager Dustin Ingram says customers appreciate.
Most furniture stores, you're going to spend a couple $100 on, a chair. Here, it's going to be much more affordable.
Pickett says the reuse movement has been gaining popularity in recent years, especially through deconstruction, which keeps big furniture items out of America's landfills.
The construction and demolition debris that's created through traditional demolition and construction is actually twice as much as our solid municipal waste.
The EPA says over 534 million tons of construction and demolition waste end up in landfills every year. Cabinets like these. But Pickett says in order to start breaking that number down, we have to stop building up.
A big challenge, particularly in Arizona, is we have a very healthy and robust building industry here. It can be perceived as inconvenient or maybe not worth it to choose reused building materials and find a second life for them.
But some, like Ward, say out with the new and in with the old.
Anytime I can reuse anything, it gives me a little bit of feeling good at the same time as saving money.
You reduce your waste and you help your community all at the same time by choosing something that's better for the environment.
If you want to learn how your next remodeling project can help reduce waste, Stardust Building Supplies just rolled out an educational campaign about deconstruction. You can check it out on their website, stardustbuilding.org.
The City of Surprise is the latest Arizona community to suspend its recycling program.
Cronkite News reporter Jordan Evans explains why the costs are getting so expensive.
Recycling is a part of our everyday lives, but did you know that some of the materials you're actually putting in this bin are costing your city money? And that's why cities across the valley are cutting back, if not suspending their programs, because the problem is getting expensive.
So he'll get that material and he'll push it back and up.
When you recycle items such as plastic water bottles and aluminum cans, they end up here at recycling plants across the valley. But not everything you put in your recycling bin makes it into these bales. Instead, they're ending up here.
The problem is more with people putting too much waste in their direction. Pretty much of all plastics ever created, only about 9% has truly been recycled. And most of it ends up in the landfills. It's meant to last a long time, it's durable, it's inexpensive, so that's why it's created on such a massive scale, and it's just been increasing since the 1950s.
So when non-recyclable materials are fed into this facility, it comes at a cost because all of your items are sorted manually.
Contamination is absolutely a problem. So we as residents are contributing to this grand challenge in recycling right now. Contamination is enough of a problem that it's not only causing us to pay, but causing us to pay a lot.
As of August, Surprise decided to suspend its program because of this reason. But before that, the cost of recycling was already getting expensive when China imposed bans on plastic waste in 2018. A recent study published in Science Advances says nearly half of all of the imported plastic waste globally since 1988 will be displaced by 2030. That's equivalent to about 111 million metric tons.
They're expecting to get this, this delivery of plastic, and they get a bunch of trash mixed in, it becomes a problem. And why would they want to keep buying it if then it takes extra manpower and extra hours to be able to separate all that stuff out and then move on with the recycling process?
What was one problem has now evolved into two. Because China was receiving contaminated plastic waste, this has now created a much larger surplus here domestically.
It's hard to argue with the economics for some cities and towns that are small, that don't have resources. It's a big bite out of the budget now. We used to make about $600,000 off of our recycling, and now we lose about $500,000. It's $1 million swing.
Lauren Kuby with the city of Tempe says the city is struggling to keep its recycling program alive. So far, 4 cities in Arizona have suspended their programs completely, and several others are making huge cuts.
I moved here when I was 3, so my entire life I've been here. It's always been a thing of we separate the recyclables, that kind of thing, and put them in the recycling bin, and it's just always been the norm for me, basically. And to have to throw them away now, it's just so odd. I know they say to keep separating them, but we haven't done that.
One of the advantages of pushing pause, like what we did, is this grabbed residents' attention. And so on social media and in person, residents are saying, what can we do to get recycling back? What can we do to make it work?
So for now, residents of Surprise can drop off their recycling at the Northwest Regional Landfill on Saturday mornings, and that's where it will be processed in a material recovery facility. Gent says until cost-effective solutions are identified, check with your city's website for information on what you can and cannot go in your curbside bin.
If I could explain 3 things, it's don't throw any plastic bags or any wrappables, we call them. If you are using a recycling container, make sure that you put your recyclables in loose, and try to use the internet to educate yourself on the items that are best being recycled right now.
In Surprise, Arizona, Jordan Evans, Cronkite News.
Solar panels are a common way to get renewable energy, especially here in Arizona. But one company is using solar panels to pull water straight from the air.
That's right. I got to see this in action recently and learn about how this technology is helping Arizonans as well as people around the world.
This is where the Zero Mass Water team designs, builds, and deploys hydro panels. It's where we make water from air.
You heard that right. They make water from thin air. Fitzgerald says Zero Mass Water is the world's only off-grid way to get drinking water by using solar energy.
There's no single filter you can get at your home that will filter every contaminant out. Having a source hydro panel, whether it's for your school, a business, or a home, means that you know that every time the sun shines, you're making water.
Here's how the system works. First, this solar panel pulls in heat and electricity to power the fans. These fans pull in air so that a special absorbent material can pull in the water. After that, the dew point is raised so the water can condense, and then it's ready to move on. And the last step of the journey is the water moves through pipes all the way to these dispensers.
This technology is producing water right here in Arizona, including at Copper King Elementary. Principal Janine Ambrose says these 10 panels start a conversation with students.
We were looking at Arizona here, and we're always in a drought and looking for water. We're really trying to teach them to be more aware of how they're using resources on the planet because they might not be here in their future.
Students are taught alongside the technology.
We are getting fresh water every single day by renewable sources that are in our world, basically.
We can actually see it because it's like right next to us. Like, I think that's like really cool. We connect to it.
We're finding out how this can work and then how we can do a better job of teaching kids about sustainability.
Students like Tristan and Celeste are excited to learn about renewable solutions because the water crisis may affect their future.
By 2030, we will only have about 60% of the water the world demands. We have to reach the places around the world we know are facing a lot of water stress as our climate continues to change.
But there's a need right now. The World Health Organization reports that 2.1 billion people don't have access to clean drinking water. Zero Mass is trying to improve this in the 30 countries they currently operate in. The company installed hydro panels at schools in Africa, in indigenous Australian communities, and in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria.
The technology is really exciting, but it's the impact on people's lives and what they do with the technology that we find really inspiring. The recommended 2 hydro panel set costs about $5,500 and will generate between 300 and 600 bottles of water every month. The EPA is slamming the brakes on high vehicle emission standards. Last Thursday, the Trump administration moved to revoke the Clean Air Act waiver of 2013, which allows California to enforce its own stricter emission standards to combat the state's problem with smog. Reporter Kyla Wilcher is in Santa Monica showing the impact this restriction may have.
LA is notorious for smoke and fog, or smog, because it's the first city to address the issue of smog in the skies. LA officials created the nation's first air quality regulator back in 1947, but it wasn't until 1984 that the state started mandating smog checks for all cars. Now California could be facing cutbacks to their smog standards.
Air pollution, especially from cars and fossil fuels, is not just an LA problem. According to 2019 rankings from the American College of Sports Medicine, Long Beach, California ranked worst in air quality, but 6 cities in the valley round out the top 10. Suzanne Paulson is a professor of atmospheric chemistry at UCLA. She says the LA area's geography traps smog as it forms.
We have a very clean city as cities go, with some sort of conditions that are specific to our location.
Paulson has spent the last 30 years in Southern California and says she's noticed dramatic improvements in the air quality since she moved to LA decades ago.
Most fall afternoons, a wall of smog would roll in.
Chris Chavez works for the Coalition for Clean Air. He grew up in Long Beach, and as a child who had asthma, he understands the impacts of air pollution firsthand.
You know, pollution definitely impacts the people that live there, and certainly is a major concern of residents in that region.
While California has made large strides in air quality, Chavez and Paulson say the state has a long way to go.
At the end of the day, if California's going to have the tools to protect its citizens and combat climate change, rolling back these standards and freezing or revoking California's waiver is certainly going to stand in the way of that.
On Tuesday, Trump administration officials told California to abide by their standards or risk losing funding for highways. In Santa Monica, Kyla Wilcher, Cronkite News.
This morning, some state Democratic lawmakers called on Arizona's U.S. Senator Martha McSally to oppose the Trump administration's plans to relax the standards for what comes out of your car's tailpipe.
Cronkite News reporter Melanie Porter is live in Phoenix to explain. Melanie?
That's right, guys. The Environmental Protection Agency regulates the emissions and fuel efficiency for cars, trucks, and motorcycles. The Trump administration wants to reduce these standards. Today, Arizona legislature said that change would be a step in the wrong direction.
As a mother, I want my babies to be able to spend time outdoors.
Kulumba Saenz is a mother of 3 and sees the impact polluted air has on her children.
Unfortunately, I've been forced to limit their time outdoors due to poor air quality.
But besides public health, Democratic state senators believe these clean car standards push our economy and innovative thinking forward.
Like it's been reported, Arizona has already saved
$680 million at the pump, and we're expected to add over 9,000 new innovative jobs by 2030.
It means, and what it means, it's actually being innovative about how we are looking at technology, making sure that cars are much more fuel efficient, and that's important because that spurs innovation in how we move forward.
Democrats say that rolling back these clean car standards would be detrimental to the earth and our health, but the Trump administration is adamant that rolling back these standards would make cars and gas more affordable. President Trump tweeted his thoughts on this issue back in September and said lowering clean car standards would lead to safer vehicles and more car production. His proposed rollbacks would especially impact 14 states, including California, that have higher emission standards. Democrats in Arizona are calling on Senator Martha McSally to oppose these rollbacks.
McSally has the opportunity to show the voters of Arizona exactly what kind of leader she is. Whether or not a state should be able to protect its citizens from pollution should not be a political issue. This proposal is an attack on states' rights just as much as it's an attack on common sense safeguards put in place to protect us from pollution.
Since 2012, oil and energy political action committees have donated more than $80,000 to Martha McSally. Cronkite News reached out to the senator's office for her response on Trump's plan for clean car standards, but we did not receive a response in time for this broadcast. In downtown Phoenix, I'm Melanie Porter, Cronkite News.
A researcher has developed a possible life-changing technique to make plastic out of cactus juice.
But now the question is, can it be scaled up? Cronkite News reporter Jordan Elder takes us inside the operation.
It might seem hard to believe, but the future of these plastic bags might lie in prickly pear cactuses. America wastes a lot of plastic, and especially at the grocery store. Shoppers use almost one plastic bag per resident per day. And it's not just these plastic bags, it's bottles too. In 2015, Americans purchased about 346 bottles per person. That's almost a bottle a day. And this problem keeps growing. Less than 1/5 of all plastic is recycled globally. But there might be a new recipe to solve this plastic problem. Engineers in Mexico are beta testing a new chemical formula with cactus juice as the main ingredient. It was created by Sandra Pasco Ortiz, a chemical engineering professor at the University of the Valley of Atemajac in Zapopan. Juice is extracted from the cactus and mixed with additives that make it feel more like the plastic bags we're used to. Then it gets rolled out and dried. The whole process takes about 10 days. These cactus juice bags take 2 or 3 months to break down in soil, and only a week if they're put in water or compost. Normal plastic bags may take centuries to decompose. Prickly pears are all over Arizona, so these bags could potentially be produced right here if the technology takes off. Several companies are interested in collaborating with Ortiz, who has already filed for a patent for this technology. For now, keep your reusable bags handy, but prickly pear plastic could make its way to your grocery store in the coming years.
Scientists in Arizona are experimenting with technology that helps farmers get the most out of their crops while also conserving our most valuable resource. Reporter Dylan McKim got to see how farmers are taking to the sky to get a closer look at their fields.
Gone are the days of farmers walking their fields.
I'm gonna go now.
Now they take to the air with drones.
I don't really do anything to fly it. It's all on autopilot right now.
Kelly Thorpe, an agricultural engineer, uses drones to take detailed images of his plants that show the condition of the field.
They're a very powerful technology to be able to go out and regularly map fields, giving you regular information from which you can make decisions from.
Decisions like how to use our most valuable resource, water.
If we can make those decisions more accurate, then we know that we're being more efficient in our water use.
It's an alternative to conventional farming in the sense of using information to guide decisions on input use.
After the drone is done with its flight, Kelly and his team will analyze the data and then tell this machine right here how much water each plot of crop needs.
So what I end up with at the end of all that is essentially a map of my field that is sectioned into smaller areas that can receive differential amounts of water.
This allows Thorpe to give the right amount of water to each area of the field.
That I think that the drones offer a very promising future for coming up with ways to make our agricultural decision-making more resource efficient.
In Maricopa, Dylan McKim, Cronkite News.
Kelly and his team have been testing on cotton fields for the past year and are now looking to expand their research to other crops.
It's elk breeding season in Arizona. Cronkite News reporter Melanie Porter trekked deep into the White Mountains to learn about elk and their importance in the community.
She joins us now in the studio. Melanie?
That's right. I traveled to Springerville, Arizona, which is in the White Mountains about 45 miles east of Show Low. I spent the entire day learning about and searching for elk and discovered that these animals are the crown jewels of this small community. The Arizona Game and Fish Department helped to manage the population of elk at Sipe Wildlife Area by keeping a close eye on the male to female elk ratios.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun if you've never heard one or seen it. It is a sound that is unlike anything else in the world. Now, this time of year in the fall, in the calving season, they'll come in about 80 to 100 of them with their little ones. It's like the trees start moving.
Elk are a huge economic contributor to the areas around here. They're also really important culturally, and they're one of the most abundant animals. We've noticed actually the biggest changes come with the hunting seasons. So that sort of predation pressure from humans has caused them to kind of switch their schedules, and they've become a lot more nocturnal.
And we count animals. So we're going to count calves, cows, and bulls. Now through that, we're going to get a ratio of how many we're actually seeing, whatever that equates to. And that ratio is specifically what our guidelines say that we need to have a healthy population. Hunters, that piece of the pie that we have, we would never be able to manage the population to make sure that it stays healthy.
I'm seeing more this year, for sure, and healthier. They look a lot healthier. Yeah, their coats and their conditions are healthier. I know it's because of the water, the minerals in the water, the vegetation, the feed, the grasses. It was so dry last year. It was hard for them to find good food plots.
With the amount of water we have, the amount of variation from, our 12,000 foot elevation from, Escadilla and Baldy all the way down to some of the lower elevation stuff that they can winter in. So they're not stuck in one habitat, they can move, and through that we can have a lot bigger, healthier elk population.
Wildlife experts are optimistic about the current health of the elk at Sipe Wildlife Area, but they say changes in weather, hunting, and natural predators impact the elk population. In the Broadcast Center, I'm Melanie Porter, Cronkite News.
Trick-or-treating has ended and the Halloween season has come to a close, sadly. But pumpkin patches around the country still have a ton of leftovers.
That's right. Last year, America produced 1.5 billion pounds of pumpkins. So where do they all go? Well, I decided to find out for myself. Take a look.
After the hayride has ended, the scarecrows are laid to rest, and the signs are dismantled. The Fall Fest at McDonald's Ranch in Scottsdale is closed for the season, but they're left with hundreds of pumpkins.
During the month of October, we'll have like 10,000 pumpkins, put out, every weekend. So we have thousands of pumpkins.
But Richardson says the ranch doesn't want to pitch their pumpkins into a landfill after Halloween, left to rot with all the others that get tossed each year. Since 2016, they've put their leftovers on the plates of others.
We donate a lot of them to the wildlife foundations around the valley. A lot of people who own livestock will come buy them from us.
You don't want anything that something else can eat to go to waste. There's animals that need it. There's people that can use them.
And some of these animals are found right on the ranch.
We can give our leftover pumpkins to the cows because the cows love to eat the pumpkins.
This is Reggie right behind me, and Reggie is going to town on this pumpkin. How's it taste, Reggie?
It's like a treat. They play with them, they eat them.
Donating the pumpkins or dumping them in the pasture helps the ranch accomplish one of their sustainability goals.
Just to make our footprint a lot smaller. I mean, the waste that comes with Halloween, it's not just getting tossed or ending up in a landfill, or, it's not money wasted. It all comes full circle.
The pumpkins end up decomposing in landfills each year, emitting methane that contributes to greenhouse gases. That's not the ending McDonald's Ranch wants for their leftovers.
McDonald's Ranch donates many of their leftovers to the Southwest Wildlife Conservation Center in Scottsdale. They said the bears and the bobcats enjoy the pumpkins almost as much as the cows do.
A dry monsoon is impacting fungi in a negative way. Cronkite News reporter Melanie Porter went to Mount Lemon near Tucson to find out how important mushrooms are to our ecosystem.
Calabalosi.
A delicacy thrives at the base of the forest floor.
What's fascinating to me about mushrooms is that there is so much that is still unknown about mushrooms. They are kind of like the final frontier of the natural sciences, the science we understand the least about.
Mushrooms are more than just a delicious pizza topping. They also bring balance to the forest.
The ecosystem, we need them. Mushrooms, just like the bees need the flowers. You know, the mushrooms provide the mycelium of the mushrooms for the trees.
And these mushrooms also bring people together through the Arizona Mushroom Society.
The adult idea of a Easter egg hunt. You know, when you find something that's new and you finally discover what it is, it's exciting.
Mushrooms are an essential part of the ecosystem because they're used to decompose things. However, with the shortened monsoon season, mushroom season is also at risk.
Mushrooms are going to come and go with the season and how much rain we get. And we had a great winter. It could have been a very productive summer if it had continued, but you know, you can't have it both times. So
mushroom forays happen all over the state of Arizona, from the Grand Canyon to the White Mountains to Mount Lemon.
Yeah, some years are definitely spottier than others. It has not been the juiciest year.
This mushroom season hasn't been particularly ripe here in Tucson or in northern Arizona. Still, Arizona Mushroom Society members remain hopeful.
As we have learned, the mushrooms will do what they want to do when they want to do it. That's what we have learned. So we're just hoping, you know, that our season still is not over yet. But it's going to start getting cold, and that's when the temperatures start to drop, the mushrooms hide.
But they also recognize that without the proper weather conditions, they'll have to say goodbye to these delicacies until next season. At Mount Lemon, Melanie Porter, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Mushroom Society plans foraging and photography events. You can check their website, arizonamushroomsociety.org, for more information.
That's it for this special edition of Cronkite News. Thank you for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
What I really like about whether we're talking Horizon or PBS NewsHour is the fact it's not just one voice. We typically will get several voices talking, different viewpoints. So you're getting a good analysis of what's going on. We need good reporting, and that's what I depend on with PBS.
For more information about including Arizona PBS in your future plans,